Morning, glory, America. It's election day. Get on your boots and go vote. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're feeling achy, you didn't take your relief factor, whatever it is. Get up and go vote. Now, 98 million of you, including me, have already voted. Thank you. I think we should set a record today that will stand for a very long time. And most of the people voting today, by admission of both sides, are Trump voters. So I want to see those long line stories. I want you to wait for an hour and a half or 2 hours, but if you go early, that won't be the case. And not just Donald Trump and Mike Pence, but beginning in Maine for Susan Collins and ending up in California for Mike Garcia for Congress, everywhere in between, you got to get out there and vote. Now, I want you to understand, I am neither an optimist nor a pessimist because there's nothing for me to study. There's a lot of polling data, but it was all based on combinations of 2016 and 2018 models, which are irrelevant when you have a record turnout as we are going to have. And by record turnout, I mean off the charts turnout. That's a great thing for democracy, by the way. That shows people have faith in voting. And so I'm not going to tell you what I think is going to happen because I don't know. This isn't a bar exam that I can study for. I can, however, tell you that Team Trump last night sent Nicholas Traynor out. And Nicholas Traynor is the head of their battleground strategy. He had some great quotes. In a lot of places across the country, Election Day is going to look like a Trump rally, said Traynor. That's what it's built for, he said about the GOTV, the Get Out the Vote effort. And he went state by state. State by state. He looked at example of Pennsylvania, for example. So Pennsylvania, the Democrats are going to have a somewhat in the neighborhood of a 750,000 head start, about 750,000 votes ahead, heading into tomorrow. Probably more than that. What we know right now is there are 2.6 million Trump voters likely to show up tomorrow. There are 1.5 remaining million Biden voters. So Pennsylvania in particular is going to look on election night like an election day vote standpoint, like the president wins in an absolute landslide. However, we know that the margin he needs to win by in Pennsylvania, and that math is available to us from turnout perspective. It means they got to get 2.6 million today. They expect 1.5 for Biden, and he's got a 750,000 lead. That leads to a 250,000 victory for the president in Pennsylvania. Traynor went through other states. This is according to Paul Bedard, who was talking to him. In Ohio, Joe Biden wasted time today to go to Ohio. Weeks ago, the partisan makeup of the electorate in Ohio was Democrat plus 10. Today, it's Democrats plus 0.6, coming into 400,000 net votes for Trump in Ohio. In North Carolina, where the president was this morning, he was talking yesterday on Monday, Democrats jumped out to a partisan advantage of 32 points. Today, it's 5.8 plus D. Coming into Election Day 2016, the partisan advantage was Democrats plus 9.7. Again, President Trump has a projected Election Day net cast margin of over 400,000 votes. They think they catch and pass Biden in North Carolina. In Pennsylvania, I told you in Arizona, Don Jr. is out in Arizona right now. Weeks ago, the makeup of that electorate was D plus 11.9. Right now, it's D plus 1.2. The gap on Election Day was D plus 2.5. President Trump will win Election Day in Arizona by 150,000 votes. That is so key, desert state. And Martha McSally needs to get your vote every step of the way. They're very confident in Florida. And in Michigan, they've already got a ton of high-propensity voters in Michigan. We have 2 million votes for President Trump left. Trump will need to win Election Day in Michigan by 350,000 votes. And today we project over 400,000 votes for the president. It's same-day registration in Michigan and in Maine. It's same-day registration in Iowa. It's same-day registration in Minnesota and Wisconsin. You can just walk in and vote. In those states, in Iowa, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota. Just walk in and vote. Wisconsin. We need every Republican. One of these races, I don't know where it's going to be, is a 5-vote race, a 3-vote race, a 1-vote race. So whether you're voting for Thom Tillis in North Carolina or David Perdue in Georgia, or one of the other Republicans, Georgia's got the special, and there are a couple of great Republicans down there, that will go to a runoff. Whether you've got that or whether you've got the most influential and powerful senator in the United States Senate, not named McConnell, is Susan Collins in Maine. She's in line to be head of the Appropriations Committee. My Mainer friends, get up early, go vote for Susan Collins. Why would you trade in the most powerful Senate chair of appropriations, and the most influential senator and the most respected senator for a newcomer who will be buried in the Democratic caucus and not heard from for 30 years? Susan Collins has been there working, and you need to get up and vote for Susan Collins. We may have her join us a little bit later. My friends in Iowa are turning out in droves for Joni Ernst. She's won. In fact, Larry Sabato, who is not a friend of Republicans, switched that race from lean Democrat to lean Republican last night because the numbers are just overwhelming. Joni is surging as the president is surging. And so Senator Ernst will be coming back. Same thing is happening for Martha McSally in Arizona. I don't know if Cory Gardner has enough kick. He's closing. I don't know if he's got enough kick. Steve Daines is winning in Montana. Steve Bullock wants to take away Montanans' guns. That did not work so well. What a surprise. John James and Jason Lewis are the underdogs to watch tonight. John James in Michigan, Jason Lewis in Minnesota. It's going to be a wild night, and don't believe anything until 3 a.m. Don't believe a thing until 3 a.m. because they've got to get these absentees counted. They've got to get the in-person votes tallied. They've got to get the votes in from the rural parts of the state, which are overwhelmingly pro-Trump. It's a real countryside versus the capital election. And it's going to be tight in some places. Like I say, you really can't stay home today. Every single Senate race, look, Mitch McConnell's running away with it. Lindsey Graham needs your vote. He wants to win decisively to stop this nonsense from happening again. They poured $150 million in to beat Lindsey. If we can beat him by 10 points in South Carolina, that will be great. That will crush their hopes and their dreams in South Carolina for many generations to come. So get out there and vote for Lindsey Graham. John Cornyn in Texas should win going away. I don't believe Texas is close. They've been trying to play that PSYOPs game all week long. Don't believe it. You got to act like Baker Mayfield. Can we hear Baker from a couple weeks ago, cut number 20?
The good thing about it is we don't have to learn from a loss. We can get better after a win. So, just the mindset of trying to be just a bunch of big, hairy American winning machines is important.
Big, hairy American winning machines. That's what we need to be. Men and women have to get out there and vote today. Donald Trump was all over Michigan last night. Here he is, cut number 18 in Grand Rapids.
We made history together 4 years ago, and tomorrow we're going to make history once again.
He went up to Traverse City. It was cold, and the crowd was enormous. Cut 13.
Joe Biden!
No, cut 13.
Joe Biden!
Oh, no. Oh. Stop for a second. Stop. He was playing the reel. I didn't want that. I want cut 12.
Every corrupt force in American life that betrayed you and hurt you is supporting Joe Biden. The failed establishment that started the disastrous foreign wars, they support Biden. The career politicians that offshored your industries and decimated your auto plants, and you suffered for many, many years. I'm telling you, that's why I'm here, I think, primarily. That was the first thing, trade. I said, how could they do that? They supported Biden. The open borders lobbyists that killed our fellow citizens with illegal drugs and gangs and crime that poured into our country, they support Biden. They still do. The anti-American radicals defaming our noble history, heritage, and heroes, they support Biden. They support him. They support Sleepy Joe. And I signed a law that you take down any of our statues, any of our monuments, you go to jail for 10 years.
No, I want to close by telling my friends in Georgia, I have a huge audience in Atlanta. The Wall Street Journal's editorial this morning, Georgia may decide the Senate majority. You've got to get out, Atlantans and Macon and all of my friends in Athens and all of my friends in Columbus. You've got to get out and vote for David Perdue and either Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins. There are 2 Senate races down there, 3 great Republicans. David Perdue, you've got to go. Turn around, tell the boss you were saving the country. You've got to get out for David Perdue and either Kelly Loeffler or Doug Collins. Get out and vote today. It's up to Georgia to save the Senate. Stay tuned. This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I live with a bunch of liberal Democrats, and they were complaining about President Trump was dismantling President Obama's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like the fact that he had got rid of all of his regulations, his policies.
Right.
So if President Obama handed out all this to President Trump, how could he claim that President Trump inherited something that he really didn't have anything to do with?
Well, of course, Randy. Plus, how can he claim that that takes the credit for the economy when everything Donald Trump has done to improve the economy is criticized? Donald Trump lowered taxes. He lowered them too much. Rich people got too much of a break. Donald Trump lowered regulations. We need those regulations for Wall Street. So here you are taking credit for Donald Trump's economy while criticizing the policies that produce the economy. And Randy, the reason I said you were well named is because that's my dad's name, Randy. His name is Randolph. They called him Randy. Now, one more thing, Randy. You listen to the Larry Elder Show. I always try to use liberal sources to advance my own agenda because you can't attack your own liberal sources. Here is Tavis Smiley, anti-Trump Tavis Smiley, who criticized President Trump, admitting that under Obama, by virtually every major metric, blacks lost ground.
Over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
The so-called wealth gap between the average black household and white household widened. Poverty went up. And from a period of 2010 to 2013, believe it or not, black net worth fell almost 30%. Some legacy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden. And best evidence of that is, how did Joe, on the salary of a senator, acquire 5 houses and live like a multimillionaire while he was in the Senate? He didn't become rich after. He became rich while he was in the Senate. Well, he became rich because he was using his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his other brother as bagmen.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I would like to hear from first-time voters for Donald Trump. People who have never voted before, but who are voting for Donald Trump today. Not who have already voted. 1-800-520-1234. Open the lines up, Ben and Harley. So I don't want to hear you tell me about how you supported Trump forever since Iowa of 2016. 1-800-520-1234. I'm still looking at a board that's got all the phones blocked, Generalissimo. Okay, so my computer is messed up. 1-800-520-1234. I want to hear from people who are going to vote today for Donald Trump for the first time that they have ever voted. I'm just curious for some anecdotes about who you are. 1-800-520-1234. Let me check markets as to yesterday. This is brought to you by our friends at Birch Gold. Today, like every day, they will be working to make sure part of your 401k, part of your IRA can be rolled over into a nest egg of gold and silver, physical gold and silver. I believe it should be 10% to 25% max, minimum of 10%, max 25%. So if you've got $10,000, you got to have $2,500 in gold and silver that's stored, physically stored by Birch Gold. Now you find them by texting my name, Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 474747. They'll send you all the information you need. It's not an obligation. You can study up. You can read it, find out. Or you can go to hughgold.com, hughgold.com. They have got an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless five-star reviews. Talk to them. They're extremely knowledgeable, no matter what happens, up or down, sideways, in the market during a volatile period of time, with an election day. And I mean, they boarded up downtown D.C. That's just weird. That's just, it's happened in San Francisco. It's happened in Minneapolis. It's happened in New York City. Boarding up the downtown tells you that it's unlikely to be peaceful if Trump wins. And I think, I don't have any predictions. Yesterday, the Dow was up 423 points. The NASDAQ was up 46 and the S&P was up 40. Overseas this morning, everything green. Japan, which is already closed, up 1.39%. Hong Kong up 1.95%. Germany, which is still open, 1.75%. England up 1.7%. Gold up to, my goodness, it went up 0.35% already today. And the 10-year Treasury is at 0.85. Oil is up by 3% this morning. People are expecting a boom. They're expecting a boom. I don't want to read Donald Trump winning into this, but it's the sort of thing you think you get when markets are going to be happy. And markets will be happy if Donald Trump wins. Matt in Sarasota, Florida, you're a first-time voter ever?
Yes, sir.
How old are you?
26 years old.
Well, okay, so you skipped two. Why did you skip the last two?
I was just, really uninvolved in politics, and I didn't really feel like my vote would have been impactful in Illinois. That's a pretty blue state, and I didn't think.
So who did you vote for this time, or are you voting today?
I'm going to vote for Donald Trump this morning, yes.
Are you in your car?
I am.
Do you know where you're going?
Yes, I'm heading over to Costco.
Do they vote at Costco?
Yeah, that's one of the voting centers here in Sarasota.
Now, if you've got the wrong place, you go somewhere else until you file a provisional ballot somewhere, and then you take a picture of it when you hand it in. Don't let your vote not be counted. Florida is probably in the bag for Trump, but it might be one of those Chad things.
Right. So, yep, I know this is the one that's like 3 minutes from my house, so it's definitely the.
So, Matt, why are you voting for Trump for the first time you've ever voted at age 26?
Well, to be honest, I've been quite tired of the biased media. Donald's never gotten a fair shake, and he's gotten quite a few things done, and that's just completely overlooked by the left. So.
I love, Matt, that the first caller today cites the biased media as a reason for voting for Donald Trump. You are not alone. You are millions of people sick of the media. Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically, in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is, now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote, and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27-year-old Walter Wallace from City Journal in West Philadelphia has set off another round of mass looting, arson, and violence. Wallace, who had a long criminal history and evident mental problems, was confronted by 2 police officers who ordered him repeatedly to put down the knife that he was wielding. Wallace refused to drop the knife, charged the officers, and was shot multiple times. The shooting sparked looting and vandalism in and around West Philadelphia's 52nd Street corridor, where the 18th District Police District is located. Incidentally, I have very vivid memories of arriving to give a speech in Philadelphia on the night of the Philadelphia Phillies winning the World Series. And we could not travel directly to our hotel in downtown Philadelphia because of all the rioting that was taking place. So Philadelphia has a tradition of riots that are caused by all sorts of things. And the primary source has nothing to do with events. Events are excuses to riot. The people who riot are bored, aimless, and they have no conscience that you and I can relate to. They probably have no father. They certainly have no 10 Commandments. Just thought I'd throw that out.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Michael Moore is essentially saying the same thing. Yesterday, he was interviewed on a show called Rising on Hill TV. Here's what he said just yesterday.
Trump has tightened virtually every one of these swing states. Listen, don't believe these polls. The Trump vote is always being undercounted. Pollsters, when they actually call a
Welcome back, America. Election day, and Americans are streaming out. I just talked to Jerry in Fairfax. Now, Fairfax County, Virginia, is a blue county. But he voted at one school, and he went to another school, Centerville High School, which has got every parking lot. You know how big parking lots are at high schools. They're enormous. Every stall filled and a line around the block. Parking on the road. People were parked around the middle school. And he said they're wearing Trump paraphernalia. Now, anecdotal evidence is evidence of anecdotes. I'm sure there are some precincts that are, full of slow Joe people. But I'm very excited. I think that the turnout today is going to be overwhelmingly Republican because the Democrats cannibalized their early vote. Republicans, like the conservatives, like to vote on Election Day. Now, I voted early because I didn't know where I was going to be. I happened to be home. I could have voted today, but I happened to be home. Wearing my red state, Ohio State sweater this morning. Go out and vote red. I'm talking to people who are voting for the first time for the president. John in Columbus, listening on 98.9. Hey, John, on The Answer. Good morning.
Good morning, Hugh. How you doing today?
Well, I'm wearing my Ohio State Buckeyes sweater, and they beat the Nittany Lions on Saturday night, so I'm great.
Yeah, they sure did. I got my Ohio State socks on underneath all my USA gear, so I'm ready to go.
Good. You're voting for the president?
100%. 100%, Hugh.
Are you voting today?
I'm voting today. First time I'm voting. And much like the last caller, Jerry, there's a laundry list of reasons as to why, but a big one is the media. I'm 38, and when I was in college, I didn't pay attention to politics that much. And, I really started paying attention once Barack Obama got in office and started to see the dynamic between what the media was saying that he was doing versus what the actual numbers and statistics were. And then once Trump got into office, everybody can agree sometimes when he gets there on the microphone or he's on TV, you're getting ready to cringe because of what he might say. But when you look at what he's done for this country, and then you look at the way the media has reported it, there's no doubt in my mind that the biggest threat in this country is actually the media.
Results matter. He's delivered them, John. So you didn't vote before. You've never voted in your life.
No, never voted. Only said I voted, and then I kept quiet. But I am ready to go today. It's the first time that I'm voting, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic about who I'm voting for. And I sure can see that here in Columbus. People are ready to go. The people who are all scared to come out for Trump with their signs, with stickers on their car, because of all the backlash that I think, honestly, this media drove towards them, they're sure coming out today. And I hope that they come out in full droves and we give them another 4 years.
John, thank you. Boy, will the media feel spanked if they got it wrong. All their polls. Their 15-point lead for Donald Trump. Remember that? For Joe Biden a month ago. 15-point lead. What a joke. Thom in Florida. Which part of Florida are you in, Thom?
Hey, Hugh. I'm just north of Tampa in Wesley Chapel, Florida.
Is this the first time you've ever voted?
No, not the first time. I actually voted against Trump in both the primary with the Rubio and then third party in the election of 2016. I was really kind of anti-Trump. I wouldn't call myself a non-Trumper, but his attitude turned me off, and I really thought he'd just be this pragmatic guy who would just make deals left and right. But what won me over was, you look at the way he's governed and what he's done, with moving the embassy to Israel. You had, real wage growth, right?
Yes.
You have, he's the first president in my lifetime that we're not in a new foreign entanglement, right? You know, we do
Correct.
have some foreign wars we're still in, but he hasn't added to it, which is a positive thing in my mind, right? We're not in another war. Right?
And
then you look
and
at the
he's
other
done
side.
all these judges. One more term for Donald Trump means a judiciary that is back doing what it's supposed to do, and an originalist vision of America where people decide and their representatives decide what the law is, not courts.
Actually, this election, I'm not only voting for Trump, but I've actually broken a long-time rule of myself that I never actually gave to Senate or congressional campaigns that I wasn't directly voting for. I felt it was wrong. I felt like I was tampering. I've given to Joni, I've given to John Jones, I've given to Martha McSally, trying to hold that Senate majority because the Democrats are just too dangerous to have any power right now.
That's well put.
So,
I agree with that. I think they have got to have their fever break, their AOC fever, their fever of Nancy Pelosi. Chuck Schumer is, I think, wild. And I believe people, thank you for the call. I believe people have to vote for Susan Collins to lead appropriations. She's the most powerful, influential senator in the United States, not named Mitch McConnell. And she's from Maine, and people need to get out and vote. They have same-day registration in Maine. I'll have Thom Tillis on today. They got to vote for Thom Tillis from North Carolina. I do not think you can send Cal Cunningham, who during this campaign was unfaithful to his wife in his own house with the wife of a wounded American veteran. And that's low. That's just low, North Carolina. You got to get up and go out and vote. David Perdue, you cannot let John Ossoff go up there and be the AOC of the Senate. John Ossoff, the Democrat in Georgia, is the AOC, wants to be the AOC of the Senate. You got to put David Perdue back. Got to vote for a second Republican down there, Kelly Loeffler, Doug Collins. I don't know which one of them are going to win. They got to get to the runoff, and I'll support whoever wins. Joni Ernst has surged. John James in Michigan has surged. Jason Lewis in Minnesota is the upset special. Martha McSally, the great Martha McSally in Arizona, first female fighter pilot in the United States history. And she is fighting for every vote. You got to get out and vote for her. Susan, let me talk to Laura in San Diego, California. Make sure I cover the four corners. Hey, Laura.
Hi there.
Good morning. You're up early.
I was told not to tell you this. I'm calling from Naples, Italy. We're with the military, and so it's confusing.
Oh, you're
I'm living in
Navy.
San Diego.
You're Navy. Yeah. How's the naval base at Naples?
You know, it's lovely.
Yes.
We were so fortunate to find a good. We don't live on the base.
I've got a family. I've got a military spouse who's dying to get sent to Naples.
Yeah. It's it's like living in America 50 years ago. Just the way that people take care of family and everything shuts down on Sunday for Family Day, and it's just lovely.
So, what do you think about this election? You're way ahead of us. You're 6 hours ahead of us.
Oh my gosh! And I can't stay up all night, but I wanted to tell you. I remember the day after it looked like Trump was getting the nomination back in 2016. When Larry Arnn was on the program with you and everyone was kind of crumbling, going, what's just happened? And Larry Arnn said, because you asked him, what do you think of Trump? And he said, well, Trump's a good man. And my heart sank because I thought, does he mean in the Aristotelian sense that he's a bad truck, but a good man? Because I just couldn't believe that this was what Larry Arnn was saying. And I almost had to walk away from the radio because I was so, just disgusted with the Trump persona that he put out there. And I could not vote for him. And since I was in San Diego, I thought, my vote doesn't really matter anyway. So I voted all down ticket Republican, but it was, someone memorable that I can't recall right now.
Gary
McMullen.
Johnson or someone like that.
It was McMullen because
Okay.
he was just the least offensive of anybody else. But holy cow, and at about 2018, I became really angry at the Democrats for making me a Trump apologist because suddenly I'm defending the man and looking at the things that he has done with attending the prayer breakfast and all he's done for life, for the pro-life movement, and breathing courage into the Republican Party or to conservatives more than that, breathing courage into them. I thank him so much for having the fortitude to go all the lengths that he has gone to and endure all the arrows that he has endured. And so, yes, I have voted for Trump, and I am so excited and at the same time holding my breath.
I think you'll be up all night, Laura, even though you're in Italy. Get a bottle of wine, get a bottle of Chianti Grand and Chianti Classico, and just settle in. And I'll be on the air from 6 to midnight, so you can just listen to me at HughHewitt.com or on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll keep you up to speed.
I will take comfort there. And you know what? I have become a Buckeyes fan because of you.
Oh, good.
And,
Justin Fields, he's the Hugh Hewitt of football. He's the Hugh Hewitt of quarterbacks. Or people say I'm the Justin Fields of radio. Be well, Laura. God bless. Joni in Georgia. Joni, we really need you to vote for David Perdue. Have you voted yet?
I have you, and that's exactly who I voted for. Red ticket, top to bottom.
Did you go out early or did you mail in?
I went out the second day early.
Good for you. So you're already banked. Are you helping to get people to the polls today? You calling all your friends and family?
Yes, I am. I've taken today off and do what I can to put Trump back in the White House.
Have you ever voted before?
Unfortunately, I had my teenage daughter who was voting age in the last election, and she talked me into the whole woohoo first woman president. So I made the mistake of voting for Hillary. I was an uninformed voter. I admit that. I have to say it was divine intervention. I happened to be in my car, which I never am, at lunchtime, and got tired of listening to the same old songs on the radio and discovered Rush Limbaugh. Heard that voice and never went back to radio. Always listened to talk radio from that point forward, and that's how I discovered you, and now I call myself an informed voter.
Good for you,
and an
Joni.
informed listener.
Good for you.
So,
please did you bring her over to the light?
Yes, sir, I finally have. It took some convincing. She lives in Atlanta. She has a lot of liberal friends, but she has crossed over to see the light. So, yeah.
Oh, Joni, thank you. I'm going to talk to another Georgian. God bless, be well. Brandon in Atlanta. Have you voted yet, Brandon? Oh, being screened. William in Los Angeles. You got 30 seconds, William. Did you vote today, or are you voting today?
I already voted. I never voted before. By the way, Hugh, I remember listening to you on KFI Day, so it's really good to hear.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, 1990.
Yeah, I'm like an old man, you know. I mean, we only had 7 letters in the alphabet when I was a kid. That's what made it so hard. I'm honestly, Hugh, I'm just an old truck driver. I really never voted before. But honestly, the reason why I'm voting for Trump now is I'm just driving and there's just chaotic people that are they're stopping work, stopping traffic, and they're saying it because, like, not that I'm wrong, but I'm like an evil individual.
That will get you to vote. That will get you to vote, William. I am glad you've done it. Thank you. I got to go to break, but God bless you. Time for me to remind you, after the show, because it's election day, I'm going to walk a long way, if it isn't as windy as yesterday. And relieffactor.com. You Catholics out there know you have to drop by a cemetery this week, and so I got to do that too. And long walk. That means relieffactor.com with my lukewarm coffee. I carry and recommend resveratrol and omega. Take it every day, especially on election day, especially if you have to stand in line for half an hour or 15 minutes or 10. Go early, go at any time of the day, and if you can't get in, no place to park, go back. Your vote matters. It's a one-vote election, but relieffactor.com is there to get you to stand in line and stand tall and true and be ready to go. Relieffactor.com to support the minor aches and pains of voting day and every day on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Michael Moore is essentially saying the same thing. Yesterday, he was interviewed on a show called Rising on Hill TV. Here's what he said just yesterday.
Trump has tightened virtually every one of these swing states. Listen, don't believe these polls. The Trump vote is always being undercounted. Pollsters, when they actually call a real Trump voter, the Trump voter is very suspicious of the deep state calling them and asking them who they're voting for. Whatever they're saying the Biden lead is, cut it in half right now in your head. Cut it in half, and now you're within the 4-point margin of error. That's how close this is. That's how desperately close this is.
That was yesterday. That's Michael Moore this time around. And you know, when I listen to that speech from 2016 about the despair that people have to encounter with a message of doom and negativity. Here was Biden yesterday in Tampa while Trump had a rally with the First Lady in front of thousands of people outside Raymond James Stadium. Biden had a handful of cars at the state fair, I guess the Tampa, I don't know, the state fairgrounds. He keeps talking about the dark winter. Biden it was so depressing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate. Since the presidency of Nixon, that is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause is designed to ensure that your fiduciary responsibility, your integrity, your allegiance is to your office, to your country, to have America first, as President Trump says, and to make sure that your allegiance is not compromised to a foreign.
Welcome back, America. 1-800-520-1234. Connection to Hugh Hewitt on election morning. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. I will be here tonight across most of these stations for the Salem Media Group hosting election night coverage along with Ed Morrissey. I'll be popping up on NBC as well. I have done radio or television on election night since 1990. That was my first radio broadcast with the one, the only, the wrong Bill Press in 1990 on KFI AM 640. And then in 1992 started TV with KCET, Pat Morrison, Ruben Martinez. Just posted a picture of that on Twitter. And I've done every election night on either radio or television or both since 1990. And we're going to go late and long tonight. I'll be doing the radio from 6 to midnight on the East Coast, and then continuing on with NBC until 4 in the morning, grab a couple hours, and then tell you what we know tomorrow during this. I look at this as 27 hours to go until I can go to sleep. 26 now, because this one is done. 1-800-520-1234. My honest appeal to you is be part of something that is huge. Even if you've never voted, a lot of states let you register to vote today. Maine, whose Senator Susan Collins is joining me after the break. Minnesota lets you vote today. Vote for Jason Lewis and the president. Michigan lets you vote today. Even if you're not registered, go in and register and vote. That lets you vote for John James who could be president in 16 years, within 16 years, if you vote for him today, Michigan. He is such a superstar. John James for Senate. You vote for the president up there as well. Pennsylvanians, get out and vote. You can't register same day in Pennsylvania, but you can go vote. And if you think you're registered and they don't let you vote, ask for a provisional, fill it out. If you're, got some blue people who are giving you a hard time. And by the way, I just want to warn everyone, red and blue, if you mess around with voting, you'll be arrested. There is a hunt underway in Orange County for someone who showed up at an election early voting site on Saturday proclaiming to be from the Democratic Central Committee as a liaison to the registrar of voters, and it was a fraud, and they're looking for her. She knows who she is. She had blue hair. That's like that commercial, Geico, don't turn into your parents. They're looking for that person. Don't mess around with people's right to the franchise. That goes for Republicans, that goes for Democrats, that goes for right and left. Just leave people alone. Those people at the polls are overwhelmingly Trump this morning. Overwhelmingly. Let me talk with James in Missouri. Hey, James, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Have you voted before?
Sure.
Well, who are you voting for?
Voting for Trump. I'm going to vote red all the way down.
Now, why is that? What made you go this year?
Well, to be quite honest, I just can't handle all the stuff from the media. They have I boycotted watching all the news, everything. Just tired.
What did you get? Why did you do that? You mean Don Lemon is not your friend?
Well, basically because they all are just way out there.
They're all in the bag for Biden. Not all. I mean, most of them are, but they're not fair. They are not fair.
No, they're not. They're totally one-sided. They will not tell you the truth. My dad is 74 years old. Very intelligent man. Okay? Democrat all his life. Well, he hates Trump's personality. Okay? But you cannot explain to him nothing because the media has just got him so blind to it. He has no idea of what all is going on with Biden and Trump. And
but
Biden,
he's not online, right? I mean, center-right people
he
can
can't
get
online.
Yeah, that's the problem with our generation above 70 is that they really do depend upon cable news and C-SPAN. I wish you would watch C-SPAN. C-SPAN's better than everybody else.
Yeah, he just watches the regular world news, on the local channels, and he just don't have internet. We're out in the middle of nowhere.
Get him a radio. Get him me, James. Get him me. Hey, James, I got to get one more call in. God bless, buddy. And tell your dad it's okay. My grandfather voted straight Democrat till he went to heaven at 101. So I got to live that long to offset him. Susan in Sacramento. Susan, are you voting today?
I voted yesterday.
What did you do?
I voted for Trump, and I'm 85 years old, and it was my first time to vote.
What?
And yes.
Why'd you wait?
Well, there was a reason, a personal reason that I felt I wasn't qualified to vote.
You sound Irish.
But it was something between God and myself.
Are you Irish?
I deserve it. Yes, I am.
Well, so am I by a couple of generations, but the Irish Americans out there voting for Trump, Did
you say they're not?
They are.
Oh, they are.
You betcha.
Oh,
we are.
Thank God for that.
Which county? Which county are you from, Susan?
I'm from Dublin.
Oh, well, I've been to Dublin a few times, but my people are County Clare and County Down. I'm a mix of orange and green.
Well, let me tell you something. I had filled in my form. By the way, it's sort of a miracle that I even got to register. But I guess God had a hand in it because he found a way for me to get in contact with the people at the elections office. And that person called me and told me that someone had got in contact with them to help me to register. And this all happened just in about 2 weeks' time.
And you voted for Donald Trump?
I did vote for Donald Trump.
Well, God bless you, Susan. You did your civic duty, and I'm glad you did. I got to go to break. I'm coming back with Susan.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go, appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes that deadlines for ballots in Pennsylvania are irrelevant. John Roberts upheld Obamacare. John Roberts, who was supposed to be a constitutional conservative, has really turned his back on all of us that love the Constitution and love our country. And then a billionaire from New York came down the escalator and exposed the fraud that is the American political system. That both parties for 40 years have been saying one thing and doing another, declaring endless misadventures overseas, keeping us in these perpetual conflicts, negotiating bad trade deals, keeping our borders wide open. And President Trump, albeit an unconventional candidate, an unconventional vessel, came onto the scene and he made a list. He made a list of Supreme Court nominees that he would put on the Supreme Court if vacancies would arise. And of course, Scalia's seat was open by the time he became president, filled it with Gorsuch. Anthony Kennedy stepped down in the summer of 2018, filled it with Kavanaugh. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg unexpectedly died about a month ago. And now that seat is filled with Amy Coney Barrett. 3 justices in one term. Only Ronald Reagan can compete with that. Poor Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter got 0 justices.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As a GDP growth figure nudged 3%. I can remember those days. It seems
How do you like 33.1%? Wow.
Okay, let's just stop.
Growth. It's the best we've ever had.
33.1%. It's 7% quarter on quarter, 33.1% annualized. You are the person we come to for trusted information about our economy, about the markets. Did you expect that kind of figure coming out of COVID?
Not as quite as good as that. I mean, I did believe that we could see a V-shaped recovery, but I did not, to be perfectly fair. I mean, I know that the Atlanta Fed had predicted 33%. I thought, gosh, I hope so. But I still worry that there are parts of our economy that are still shut down in massive ways, right? The travel industry, the entertainment industry, sporting, all of that kind of thing. So all the more reason, Seb, for us to be completely blown away and super excited by this. It tells you we are back in a growth trajectory. Now, the previous quarter, we were down more than 9%. It was like the worst we had ever seen, right? Obviously, I mean, we shut ourselves down. We closed down the entire country. People weren't leaving their houses. So there was this sense of hysteria that just gripped America and really left us just the most, frankly, the weakest place we've really ever been since the Great Depression.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Before, if 25 unarmed black men are killed every year, that's 2 per month. Again, this wasn't unarmed, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So we can do this until the cows come home. Meanwhile, more unarmed whites are killed every year than unarmed blacks. Name one. What's the chant they say in the streets? Say her name, say her name. Okay, say their name. Say their name. Name one. 50 million police-civilian interactions every single year. 11 million arrests. 60,000 officers assaulted. 60 killed. Which means over twice as many police officers are killed every year than are unarmed blacks. Say their names. Out of the 1,000, 500 of them are white. So the police are killing twice as many whites as blacks. And when you look at the homicide rate of young black men, 8 times the rate of young white men, it clearly shows you how the police are restraining themselves, because those numbers would suggest that the police would be killing more blacks. If a young black is 8 times more likely to be a homicide victim compared to a young white, and the police are, quote, only, close quote, 2.5 times more likely to kill a black person than a white person, it shows you how the police are restraining themselves, which is consistent with the study that was done by the black Harvard economist I told you about named Roland Fryer. He found that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect, tracking the findings that have been done by professors at Washington State for decades. You're getting people killed. Officers pulling back. Bad guys know it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once as an old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played one exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend.
Morning, glory, America. It is so great to have an Election Day broadcast. I'll be here tonight from 6 to midnight on NBC throughout the night. You know, the great state of Maine, where I am on right now, has started a tradition in 1949 of having a Republican woman senator with Margaret Chase Smith. And then it continued through Olympia Snowe, and it continues through my guest right now, Susan Collins, senator from Maine. Good morning, Senator Collins. It's great to have you on. I know Election Day, you've been through a lot of them, but it's also got to be a nerve-wracking time every time.
It is. Good morning. But it's also exciting. I've been on my All of Maine bus tour. We will have put on 6,500 miles by the time we get back to Bangor today. And I've been from Kittery to Madawaska, from Rangeley in the west to Machias and Eastport in the east. I've covered the entire state, and I've got to tell you, Hugh, the response has been terrific.
Now, Senator, I think you have same-day registration in Maine, so even if someone hasn't registered, they can walk in and vote. Am I correct about that?
You absolutely are. And I encourage people to come out and vote. We've already had a large number of absentee ballots returned. And fortunately, Election Day today looks like the weather's going to be pretty good. And Maine always has a high turnout. We care about our government, and I think that this year is going to be exceptionally high.
Now, I like to tell people a little bit, Senator. I'm married to the fetching Mrs. Hewitt, who's to the left of me. She's a centrist. She's a Pete Wilson Republican, I like to call her. And she only made one contribution this year. I can't make contributions because I work for NBC and the Post. She contributed to you as her one race that she wanted to win because of your record, because of your long service. And she knows I think you're going to be chair of appropriations in the next term at some point. Am I correct about that?
You are, and I was very flattered and honored to have her support. I am next in line to be the chair of the Appropriations Committee. That is the most important and consequential committee post in the entire Senate. I've already seen what I can do for my state as chair of the Transportation Subcommittee, and this really matters to a state like Maine. We're not a wealthy state. We have a lot of needs. And I'm glad to be in a position where I can help the hardworking families of Maine, our small businesses, just as I did by writing the Paycheck Protection Program, which has helped sustain 250,000 jobs during this pandemic.
Leader McConnell was on Friday, Senator Collins, on this show, and he singled you out as having delivered not just for Maine, but for the country, the PPP. Do people in Maine know that? I know you had 3 debates or 2 debates. Did that come up? Did the moderators give you a chance to at least explain? Without Susan Collins, there would not have been the Paycheck Protection Plan?
A little bit. It's always been ironic to me that my opponent has criticized the PPP when it's helped 3 out of 4 Maine small businesses, and her own husband's law firm took advantage of it. I must say, I wasn't contemplating law firms when we wrote the law, but that's fine. And it's, fine. He totally qualified for the program. But it has made such a difference. As I go around the state, I can't tell you how many small business owners tell me that it's been a lifeline to them. It's what has kept them alive. They care so much about their employees because their employees are their family members, their friends, their neighbors in small towns all over our state.
Senator, I don't know how you've done this, but whether I talk to a Democrat, and I got a few Democratic friends like Chris Coons, and I've got the independent Angus King as a friend. He went to high school with my brother-in-law. I've got lots of Democratic friends. They all like you. They all say, when they're not on the air, they're not going to come on the air and say Susan Collins is the most influential senator in the Senate, but they tell me that off air. Why is that?
Well, I make a point of working across the aisle. I take the approach that I am there representing the people of Maine, working for them and for our country, and to solve problems. And that's what I like to do. I think I've been very successful at that, and it's partially by reaching across the aisle and working with both my Republican colleagues and with Democrats. And that's what I think we need more of, is less polarization, more pulling together.
Now, Senator Collins, I do not know how this two-person voting works. I know how it works technically. If the first person you vote for doesn't finish in the top 2, the second choice comes in. I'm hoping the Libertarian contingent are voting for the Libertarian and then Susan Collins, but they really ought to just vote for you. But do you know how long it will take to count this?
Well, I'm hoping to get 50% of the vote today. If I do that, then ranked choice voting doesn't come into play. If I don't, so that would be the best of all worlds. And but if neither of us gets 50% of the vote, then we get into the rather odd ranked choice voting where some people get to vote twice and others don't. I think those are the rules I have to play by. They've been upheld by the court. I personally think that a real runoff between the two top candidates would be fair. But be that as it may, those are the rules, and we probably would not know for certain who won for another week.
Oh, so we want to just win outright today. So people need to get up out of their chair and go vote. Now, talk to me a little bit about Portland, because Portland is a little bluer than the rest of the state, which is red. In Portland, I went to the Sea Dogs game with my brother-in-law. It's a Susan Collins stadium. I mean, people there were talking about Susan Collins as well. How do you do in Portland?
Portland's tough, but there's still more Republican voters and independent voters in Portland than in many other parts of the state, just because it is our largest city. And so I'm not writing off any area of the state. I mean, clearly I won't carry Portland, but I hope to get as many votes as possible out of that city. And I've literally campaigned everywhere, and that's what it takes to win. But this is on top of serving thousands, tens of thousands of constituents who come to my 6 constituent service offices with problems with federal agencies that we work to resolve. It's bringing $750 million to the state in much-needed transportation funding. It's working through the PPP program to keep jobs in our state. And it's also working for tax relief, which has benefited 90% of Maine's taxpayers. So I hope that when people look at my record, including the fact that I've never missed a roll call vote, that's over 7,400 now, that they know that I've brought Maine common sense and Maine's work ethic to Washington, D.C., and to the United States Senate.
2 last questions, Senator Collins. The lobstermen leave early, and the lobster women, they put out early. But you got a regulation changed that has saved them millions and millions of dollars. Do they get a chance to vote? Because they go to work early and they stay at work late.
They do work hard, and an awful lot of them have voted by absentee ballot. And you don't have to have a reason to vote by absentee in Maine. So we have a lot of people who vote by absentee, and in most communities, if not all of them, the polls are open till 8 o'clock. So usually the lobstermen and women are in when it starts getting dark. They head to shore.
Now, I want to end where I began. The Maine tradition of a Republican women senator, beginning with Margaret Chase Smith. Did you get to know her?
I did. I met her when I was a high school student. I was one of 2 students chosen to go to Washington. I'd never been to Washington, never met a senator, and she was a real inspiration to me. I didn't know it at the time, but she spent nearly 2 hours with me. And although I didn't know it at the time, I think that was my first step in my journey to the United States Senate. It was
she was a giant. She stood up against Joe McCarthy. I mean, she was always for Maine, but she also stood for the real Republican virtue of freedom and not allowing people to be intimidated. That's quite a start to political career, Senator.
It really is. And I have a little corner in my office that's devoted to her, and it has 2 letters that she wrote me when I was a freshman in college and a high school senior.
Oh, that's terrific. Senator Susan Collins, good luck today. Maine has got to do the smart thing and send you back to the Senate. Everyone can vote in Maine. If you're listening to me, you can go and register on the same day and vote for Susan Collins. If she wins, Republicans hold the majority. She becomes chairman of the Appropriations Committee. I cannot imagine Mainers shooting themselves in the collective foot or putting a hole in the bottom of their boat. Vote for Susan Collins. Come right back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
dirty tricks they're using in South Carolina and what this has to say about Jamie Harrison, the Democrat candidate for Senate who's challenging Lindsey Graham? This race has kind of turned into a national referendum in a way of Democrat dirty tricks versus the Republican Party. It's a little bit like the Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke battle was in 2018. Over at Red State, they write, not a day goes by where there isn't a fawning puff piece on how Harrison has managed to make a race competitive. You want to know how they're trying to win in South Carolina and beat Lindsey Graham? They're not trying to advance the message of this liberal Democrat, Jamie Harrison. They're pretending that a guy named Bill Bledsoe, who dropped out a month ago, he was earlier in the year challenging Lindsey, he dropped out and voted for Lindsey Graham. He's a complete Lindsey Graham supporters. But get this, because Bledsoe missed the deadline to be removed from the ballot prior to withdrawing, his name is still on the ballot. And so the pro-Jamie Harrison side, including the Never Trumpers and all those scoundrels who hate Trump and are trying every way they can to lift up Democrats, they're lying to the voters of South Carolina by saturating the airwaves with ads that suggest that Bill Bledsoe is a viable alternative to Lindsey Graham.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
But what came out with Joe Biden recently, and it's going to keep coming out, I've never seen anything like it. And the fact that the media is not covering it, it is completely mind-bending to me that I think some people are scared to death of what's going to come out, and they will do anything, including sell their souls practically, to cover up.
This is what's so incredible about our media. I mean, when you look at communist China, for example, and the propaganda that they push, and the fact that, you know, the signal went down during the presidential debate when President Trump was talking about China, right? I mean, you know, you look at how they are on purpose manipulating the media to only allow access from their citizens to whatever they want their citizens to know. I mean, that's indoctrination. It's propaganda, and it's absolutely unacceptable in a society that values truth and fact. And so what our media is telling us, and what the leftists are saying, is that they are more concerned about having a narrative for you to believe than they are about actually telling fact and truth. Because remember, we are in a post-truth society. We are in a society that believes in my truth versus your truth, and that truth is just perspective. And so their perspective is that Joe Biden is the best candidate because he will allow their purposes to go through in government. He will manipulate the U.S. government system to their advantage. And so they don't care about reporting fact and truth. They're not journalists anymore. They're activists.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Welcome back, America. Close to 100 million Americans have voted, and there are still enormous lines everywhere. I just saw a picture of Elyria, Ohio, where the Browns fans were turning out and tweeted at him, vote like Joe Thomas blocked. Finish. You got to finish the block. You got to finish the vote. Even if the line is long, and you got to tell your boss when you get to work, sorry, I had to vote. I don't know where Dwayne is. He might be voting. He'll have an excuse today. If he comes in and tells me I'm voting, that's what I'll know. And did you get here?
Oh, dark 30 here, and our polls open at 7 a.m., and I will be there at 7 a.m.
Oh, I thought you were going to use. You came in. I'm glad to see that. Dwayne is in today. That's election day. He's getting up. Hey, let me check the markets and see what they are doing. Brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com. AndrewandTodd.com. They try and figure out in the marketplace what's going to happen. Is there going to be an economic boom like President Trump said? We had the highest growth ever in the third quarter, and he expects the highest growth ever in the fourth quarter and the best year ever next year, given the amount of stimulus. And indeed, the 10-year Treasury did tick up a lot yesterday to 0.85%. Last week it was in the 0.7s. Oil went up 3.5% overnight. Gold is up 0.5%. Overseas, we've got Japan up 1.4%, Hong Kong up 2%, England up 1.93%, Germany up 1.8%. I don't know what the market's going to do today, but yesterday it was up 423 points on the Dow. The NASDAQ was up 46 points. The S&P was up 40 points. All I can tell you is that the market seems to be registering a Trump win. That's against a lot of the polls, although some late polls last night showed it in the statistical margin of error in Pennsylvania, which is the key. Trump's got to win Florida, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. He wins the election. And when those three come in, if he loses any of those three, it ain't going to work. But if he wins all three, we're going to have a replay of 2016. So watch those three. He's got Ohio in the bag. I mean, Joe Biden went to Cleveland yesterday. That was pathetic. He's not going to win Ohio. Browns fans and Bengals, even the Bengals fans know that. And it's up to the Steelers fans. And they're 7-0. They got to be 8-0 if they vote for Trump today. So get out there and vote. And if then you want to buy a house to celebrate, go to AndrewandTodd.com. AndrewandTodd.com. There with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. They are the people. They're the ones who will get your new home bought, your existing home refinanced, or help you become a non-occupying co-borrower so you can buy a house with your son or your daughter. Let me run down the last polls. Pennsylvania Insider Advantage, Pennsylvania Trump +2. Trafalgar, Pennsylvania Trump +1. Susquehanna, Pennsylvania Trump +1. Florida, Susquehanna +1 for Trump. ABC Washington Post, Florida +5 for Trump. North Carolina Insider Advantage, Trump +5. Michigan, Trafalgar, Trump +2. Iowa is a blowout. Iowa's winning that. Des Moines Register poll has him up 7. He's going to win Iowa. Look, Joni Ernst is running around with it. Larry Sabato, who is late to call a Republican race, flipped Iowa from lean Democrat to lean Republican last night because he didn't want to be embarrassed. Larry tries to get it right, and he knows Joni Ernst is going to win. They're boarding up D.C., they're boarding up San Francisco. They're boarding up New York City. They expect unrest tonight when Trump wins. That'll tell you something. And I just want to talk to first-time callers and voters. 1-800-520-1234. If you are a first-time caller and you voted for Donald Trump, I'd like to know why. After all the negative stuff on cable, after all the blue check Twitter, I mean, boy, so many reporters on Twitter have tilted their hands. They've shown you what they're not neutral. And they're not transparent. I'm a transparent Republican. I have been forever. I'm not telling you I'm neutral. I'm rooting for Trump. I voted for Trump. I'm voting for Susan Collins. I'm rooting for Susan Collins and Thom Tillis and David Perdue. I voted in Virginia, so I voted for Gade. But I'm telling you, call me at 1-800-520-1234. I want to know who you voted for. And if you're standing in line, I really want to hear from you. Long lines in Virginia, according to Jerry. Long lines on my Twitter account. Get out there, stay in line, vote for Donald Trump, vote for change and growth, vote for America, Donald Trump for president, and Republicans for senator. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I live with a bunch of liberal Democrats, and they were complaining about President Trump was dismantling President Obama's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like the fact that he had got rid of all of his regulations, his policies.
Right.
So if President Obama handed out all this to President Trump, how could he claim that President Trump inherited something that he really didn't have anything to do with?
Well, of course, Randy. Plus, how can he claim that that takes the credit for the economy when everything Donald Trump has done to improve the economy is criticized? Donald Trump lowered taxes. He lowered them too much. Rich people got too much of a break. Donald Trump lowered regulations. We need those regulations for Wall Street. So here you are taking credit for Donald Trump's economy while criticizing the policies that produce the economy. And Randy, the reason I said you were well named is because that's my dad's name, Randy. His name is Randolph. They called him Randy. Now, one more thing, Randy. You listen to the Larry Elder Show. I always try to use liberal sources to advance my own agenda because you can't attack your own liberal sources. Here is Tavis Smiley, anti-Trump Tavis Smiley, who criticized President Trump, admitting that under Obama, by virtually every major metric, blacks lost ground.
Over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
The so-called wealth gap between the average black household and white household widened. Poverty went up. And from a period of 2010 to 2013, believe it or not, black net worth fell almost 30%. Some legacy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden. And best evidence of that is, how did Joe, on the salary of a senator, acquire 5 houses and live like a multimillionaire while he was in the Senate? He didn't become rich after. He became rich while he was in the Senate. Well, he became rich because he was using his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his other brother as bagmen.
In that case, the question is very easy. You have dealt with organized crime. You have dealt with terrorism. You have put people behind bars because they are a threat to the national security and safety of all Americans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically, in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with
You stand in that line, America. Don't give up. Could be a long time. Team Trump is turning out today. And you got to stand and wait to vote for the president. And Susan Collins in Maine, Thom Tillis in North Carolina, David Perdue in Georgia, John James in Michigan. You got to stand there for Jason Lewis in Minnesota. You got to stand there for Cory Gardner in Colorado. You got to stand there for Martha McSally in Arizona. You got to stand there for Mike Garcia, California Congressman Extraordinary. We're going to go east to west in today's show. I've already had on Susan Collins from Maine. We're going to end up with Mike Garcia in California. Martha McSally, I think, is showing up sometime today. And Joni Ernst is going to join us. Thom Tillis is going to join us. Right now, let's talk to people who are voting for the first time. First-time caller B in Pittsburgh. Have you been to the polls yet, B?
Hugh, the lines are long. I live right near the polls. I'm going to go back in about an hour or so. We got a couple hundred people in line so far.
Oh, are you going to vote for Trump?
Oh, absolutely. But Hugh, I talked to my son last night. He's a financial analyst, and his analysis was, we're a country based on work ethic and capitalism, and there's no way that Biden's going to get in.
Well, I hope he's right. I want to know.
He is right. He's right, Hugh. He's right because he's a self-made young millionaire, and he's able to buy his first expensive home based on his ability to make money in the stock market over the last couple of years.
Is he voting for Trump?
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
All right. Are you in Sean Parnell's district? Because we got to get Sean Parnell to beat.
Yes, I am, and I think well, we're very democratic here. These people are lunkheads, but I hope they do the right thing.
They're Steelers fans. What do you expect? But they can be educated.
They're lunkheads. They're lunkheads. A lot of the people in Pittsburgh. That's why my children had to leave to get jobs elsewhere because there's a lot of lunkheads in Pittsburgh.
Well, get out there and lead the way, B. Thank you. Bob is in Pittsburgh, another first-time caller. Bob, are you in line to vote?
I already cast my vote, so it was about a 15-minute wait. I was number 8 in line. I live in a small borough right border in the city of Pittsburgh, and when we left 15 minutes later, the line was getting really long. There's probably 50 or 60 people in line.
Who'd you vote for?
I voted for Trump.
And
Absolutely.
First time you voted for him?
No, I didn't vote for. I voted for him last time, but I was very wary of voting for him because I really thought he was going to be more liberal. But if I had known him back then, I would have voted for him without hesitation. And I did also vote for Sean Parnell.
You know, Sean is a terrific candidate. I really hope he ends up in the United States Congress. I really hope that. So, Bob, what did you see in line? Did you see red? Did you see Trump sign stickers? They're not allowed to campaign at the opening of a voting place, but you can generally get a sense of who's in line.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of younger people. My borough is mostly older folks, and I think most of them cast their ballot by mail. So I thought I seen a lot of younger people, but really couldn't tell whether they were supporting one candidate or the other.
Well, Bob, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. Let me go talk to Tony in Iowa, where Joni Ernst is surging. Hello, Tony. Are you listening to me on the podcast, or are you listening? I don't know what station you'd be listening to.
We have 1070 AM in Iowa.
Oh, you do? You get the Patriot from Minnesota.
Yep.
So you're up north.
I am.
Terrific. What Joni's going to join us later. Senator Ernst is going to join us in the third hour. Did you vote for her?
Yes, I did.
She's surging. Did you vote for the president?
Of course I did.
Well, you never know. I let everyone on. Why'd you vote for him? Your first-time caller. Why'd you call to tell us that?
I don't think it's being Democrat or Republican. I think it's more being common sense.
That's a good point.
Vote for Donald Trump.
What do you do for a living, Tony?
I work for a lawn care.
And so, do you vote every year?
This is my second time voting.
And are you confident that Trump's going to win re-election?
I don't want to be confident because look what happened to the Democrats last time.
Good point. Great point.
One reason I am voting is I had a daughter who was born 4 months early, and she was almost at the point of legally being aborted. And so she's healthy now, and we're not voting for ourselves for these next 4 years. We're voting for the unborn children.
That is he is the most pro-life president we've ever had. His 3 Supreme Court justices are pro-life, and you are right to think that way. Tony, thank you. Josh, first-time caller in Florida. What'd you do, Josh?
Hi, Hugh. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm getting ready to go stand in line to vote today.
And you'll stay there as long as it takes?
That's right. My heart is happy today. I'm a proud American. I want America to stay proud of who we are, and I get to vote. It's an honor to vote, and I just want to encourage everyone to do so. And I'm voting Donald J. Trump again for the second time. And,
where are you? Where do you live? Where do you live?
I'm in Pinellas County.
I know Pinellas. Well, good. Yeah.
We have a young lady on the ballot too, Anna Paulina Luna, and I'm just hoping that she can get in there and switch a House seat for us today.
How's the line look?
It's packed here today. I haven't seen it. Well, I didn't think it was like this last time either, but I'm here this morning, and there's a lot of people going in, and I see American flags on cars, and I'm just excited to see it. I'm just excited.
Josh, hang in there. Stick with us tonight. Thank you for calling. Chad is in Orlando, different part of the Sunshine State. Good morning, Chad.
Just north of Orlando, Seminole County. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm independent. I voted Hillary last election. I just got done voting Donald Trump.
Why did you do that?
I voted the Democrats, the Russia hoax. I just educated myself. They forced that on us for years and years in the media. Nancy Pelosi tearing up the inauguration speech was just disrespectful, not against Trump, but against the United States. The Kavanaugh hearing, and they're just went wacko, and I'm just not on that parade anymore.
Chad, what do you do for a living?
I'm a school teacher, 30 years.
What grade?
Physical education. I got kindergarten through 5th grade.
Well, I got to tell you, people who switch have to have a reason to do so. So I'm glad you called. And the things you cited were indeed, the tearing up the speech was one of the most radical acts I've ever seen. And it is disrespectful to the presidency. It is disrespectful to the office of Speaker. And I think there are a lot of people out there who have had it with what you say. They've gone wacko. They've gone wacko.
Yeah, we should have certain things that are standards of politeness and etiquette. And I remember as a kid looking behind Ronald Reagan and even Jimmy Carter, and those people sitting behind him were stoic and great representatives of the United States. And to watch her act like a third-grade schoolgirl with her facial expressions and ripping that up, that's when I said I was done.
Good for you, Chad. Hang in there. Stay in line as long as it takes. Let me go from your side of the state over to Sarasota. Well, you're actually on the up in the north, but Sarasota, Florida. Gary, are you in line or have you already voted?
I voted on Monday or last week, and I'm glad I did because I just drove past a couple polling booths and they were packed.
It's amazing how many, we've had 98 million people vote, and every polling station is packed.
Well, the side that's going to win is the one that has been able to energize their voting base and the independents to go out and vote for their candidate party. And I did vote for Trump.
And why did you do that?
Well, everyone always says, well, I don't like him. Hey, look, I don't know President Trump. I don't know President Obama. I didn't know the Bushes or Clinton. But what I love about Trump is his policies for America.
Well said, buddy. Thank you for calling. Norm in Ohio, first-time caller. Good morning, Norm. Which part of the Buckeye State?
Strongsville, Ohio, just southwest of Cleveland.
I know Strongsville. Absolutely know Strongsville. So what'd you do, Norm? Have you already voted or are you going to vote?
Already voted. We got up at 4:30 this morning to get in line for the polls. It opened at 6:30. We were there. Like I said, we got to the polls at 5:30. By the time we voted, the line went down the block and around.
Who'd you vote for?
Veteran for Trump. He symbolizes the three things I was raised on: God, country, and family. And he epitomizes all three, Hugh. And he's pro-life, we're pro-life, and God bless America, and God bless our president.
Norm, thank you for the call. John in Kentucky, where the leader, Mitch McConnell, took $100 million in negative ads. He's going to win by 15 points. Hey, John, are you voting for Mitch today?
Yes, definitely don't want Amy in there.
No.
She's so far left, it's unbelievable.
But he absorbed $100 million in attack ads, and he smiled through the whole thing. He's just amazing.
Right.
Mitch McConnell's amazing.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's up there in age. Yeah, he needs to retire, but, but until we get somebody working.
No. The Republicans need a wise, steady pilot. He is a great captain of the ship.
Yes, I can see that. I believe that wholeheartedly. But
Good.
I do believe in term limits. Other than that, I voted for Clinton, but once I seen how the Democrats went when Clinton was in, and from then on, I went full Republican.
John, thank you for the call. God bless you. Jim in Columbus, Ohio on 98.9. The answer. Hey, Jim, have you voted yet?
Yes, I did, Hugh. Just got back.
And?
Big, long lines. Voted for Trump.
And why did you vote for the president?
There's so many reasons. I like what he's done. I like where he's taken us. I didn't vote for him before. Wasn't sure. Had my eyes open big time in the last 4 years at just what a swamp is down in D.C., and it needs cleaned up, and I think he's the only one that can do it.
I am in the swamp. It very much is. He very much is doing that, and I believe people like you are going to carry the day in a lot of states. Thank you very much, Jim. When I come back, more first-time callers, people who are in line, people who have already voted today. This is my ReliefFactor.com bag. Oops, stand it up straight. I'm almost out, but they promised me they're sending more. I need it. After the show, going for a long walk, work off that Election Day energy, take a nap in the afternoon. I'm going to be here from 6 until midnight with Ed Morrissey on the Salem Radio Network. I'll be doing hits on NBC at the same time. I'll even have a tie on tonight. I just tweeted out my first television broadcast on Election Night 1992 for Life and Times LA and PBS. I did my first radio show for Election Night 1990. So this is my 16th election night. 16 of them. And I love election night. But you got to get to sleep in the afternoon. This one's going to go all night long, I think, because so many people voted early. I don't think we're going to have a doubt. I don't think we're going to be in overtime. It's not going to be Florida 2000. That was a one-off. But wherever you are, you need ReliefFactor.com. 1995 gives you a 3-week starter pack. You can see whether it works for you. I believe very much it will. 1995 gets you started, 3 weeks, and you can tell if it works for you. Like the tens of thousands of people who take it every morning, ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming right back with more first-time callers from around the country, from Detroit and Ohio and Pittsburgh, and I'm going to talk to who? Dwayne? And we'll play a little bit of the president who's on Fox and Friends. Stay tuned, America.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically, in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is, now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote, and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27 years.
Welcome back, America. A couple of experts. Patrick Ruffini on Twitter. Republicans already outvoting Democrats 2.5 to 1 in Pinellas. That's in Florida today, after being slightly outvoted by them in the early voting period. And Dave Wasserman writes, not that it can tell us who will win, but it's 7:30 a.m. and the Election Day vote in Florida is already, quote, stars, much more Republican than the early mail-in voting. Let's hear what the president had to say on Fox and Friends.
And that will be that. It's going to be, we will, tame originally, but ultimately get rid of the China plague. You see what's happening?
Oh, we lost him.
Horrible disease. We have learned about it. It affects the elderly. I tell the story about Barron Trump. He had it for about 2 seconds. It just went through him and it's gone. And the immune system on children, that's right. You got to get the children back to work, children back to school. You have to get the people. They have to go to work. We have to open up our states, and that'll happen. And I think now politically that will happen because you have the date, and politically it will happen. But we have a very interesting, I mean, today's going to be a very interesting day. It'll be a day that, I had this day once before, and it worked out very well. And this day is going to be something that's going to be very important and very, very special.
I think he's right.
Well,
I think
Mr.
there's going to be unprecedented turnout, a vote that is 20, 30, 40% higher than 4 years ago. I think Americans believe everything is on the line. Gary in Pittsburgh, there is no state more important than the Keystone State today. Gary, did you vote today or did you vote early?
Early.
And who'd you vote for?
Trump.
What's your feeling?
I'm from Pittsburgh proper, inside the city, and hardcore Democrat all my life, always supported the Democrats. All neighbors and friends, hardcore Democrats. I spoke with many people just to get a feel on where they're at. Out of 32 friends and workmates, 2 vote for Biden, 30 for Trump. They're all registered Democrats. Now, these are registered Democrats.
What do you do for a living, Gary?
Registered. Pardon me?
What do you do for a living?
I don't want to say.
Okay, that's fine. A lot of people don't, but I appreciate your call, Gary. I hope that holds throughout the state. Milos in Michigan, if you're listening in Detroit, get out and vote. You have same-day registration and voting. No excuse not to vote. Get out there and vote for John James and, of course, President Trump. Milos, who'd you vote for?
Good morning. I didn't vote yet, but I'm on my way to go and cast my ballot. I'm a first-time voter ever. And
Wow.
I'm voting for Donald J. Trump.
Are you going to vote for John James as well?
That's correct.
Why are you a first-time voter?
Because I immigrated legally in 2012 from a country of Montenegro.
Oh, I thought you were Irish with a name like Milos. I thought you were Irish, but nevertheless, Montenegro. Good to have you. And what do you think about American democracy?
Well, what I see from the Democratic Party, what are they trying to ignite in people? All this chaos and stuff. And all I can say is I went from in 2013 working for $7.50 an hour to now providing for my stay-at-home wife and our 4-month-old baby. No problems. Wherever I go, people are looking for work. I have friends, businesses. They can't hire people because everybody's literally already hired. Unemployment at the lowest it's ever been. And I can't see how anybody cannot vote for Donald J. Trump.
Milos, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to kind of get 3 quick calls in from Ohio. Mark in Ohio, you got to be quick. Mark, who are you voting for and why?
I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Why?
I'm a long-time Republican. I did not vote for presidency in the last election. I thought Trump was just another New York liberal slapping an R next to his name to get elected president. And boy, did he prove me wrong.
You betcha, Mark. Thank you. Paul in Ohio. Which part of Ohio, Paul?
Conneaut.
Oh, I know Conneaut well. I spent my summers at Saybrook up on the lake. Who'd you vote for?
Trump, Mr. Trump.
Why did you this
election is about keeping God in our country. Whether we keep him here or we take him out.
Thank you, Paul. John in Ohio, last call this hour. Who'd you vote for, John, and where are you in Ohio?
I'm in Avon, Hugh. And
I know Avon. You betcha. Go Browns. Why'd you vote for Trump?
3 reasons. Promises kept. Promises made. Promises kept. What he's done for the Supreme Court and the federal bench, and also what he's done for the economy.
Ohio really knows that. So does Pittsburgh land. John, thank you. More calls, maybe. I got Senator Tillis, Senator Ernst, Congressman Garcia. Get out the vote, America. You're going to have to stand in line a long time. You're going to have to vote like Joe Thomas blocked, and my Browns fans in Ohio will understand that. You got to follow through. You can't just start voting. You got to follow through and wait. And if they say you're not registered, cast a provisional. Ask for a provisional ballot. Fill it out clearly, legibly, so they can find you. Get out and vote. No matter how long or how hard it is, go and vote. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go. Appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes that deadlines for ballots in Pennsylvania are irrelevant. John Roberts upheld Obamacare. John Roberts, who was supposed to be a constitutional conservative, has really turned his back on all of us that love the Constitution and love our country. And then a billionaire from New York came down the escalator and exposed the fraud that is the American political system. That both parties for 40 years have been saying one thing and doing another, declaring endless misadventures overseas, keeping us in these perpetual conflicts, negotiating bad trade deals, keeping our borders wide open. And President Trump, albeit an unconventional candidate, an unconventional vessel, came onto the scene and he made a list. He made a list of Supreme Court nominees that he would put on the Supreme Court if vacancies would arise. And of course, Scalia's seat was open by the time he became president, filled it with Gorsuch. Anthony Kennedy stepped down in the summer of 2018, filled it with Kavanaugh. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg unexpectedly died about a month ago. And now that seat is filled with Amy Coney Barrett. 3 justices in one term. Only Ronald Reagan can compete with that. Poor Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter got 0 justices.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As a GDP growth figure nudged 3%. I can remember those days. It seems
like 33.1%. Wow.
Okay, let's just stop.
Growth. It's the best we've ever had.
33.1%. It's 7% quarter on quarter, 33.1% annualized. You are the person we come to for trusted information about our economy, about the markets. Did you expect that kind of figure coming out of COVID?
Not as quite as good as that. I did believe that we could see a V-shaped recovery, but I did not, to be perfectly fair. I know that the Atlanta Fed had predicted 33%. I thought, gosh, I hope so. But I still worry that there are parts of our economy that are still shut down in massive ways, right? The travel industry, the entertainment industry, sporting, all of that kind of thing. So all the more reason, Seb, for us to be completely blown away and super excited by this. It tells you we are back in a growth trajectory. Now, the previous quarter, we were down more than 9%. It was like the worst we had ever seen, right? Obviously, we shut ourselves down. We closed down the entire country. People weren't leaving their houses. So there was this sense of hysteria that just gripped America and really left us just the most, frankly, the weakest place we've really ever been since the Great Depression.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Before, if 25 unarmed black men are killed every year, that's 2 per month. Again, this wasn't unarmed, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So we can do this until the cows come home. Meanwhile, more unarmed whites are killed every year than unarmed blacks. Name one. What's the chant they say in the streets? Say her name, say her name. Okay, say their name. Say their name. Name one. 50 million police-civilian interactions every single year. 11 million arrests. 60,000 officers assaulted. 60 killed. Which means over twice as many police officers are killed every year than are unarmed blacks. Say their names. Out of the 1,000, 500 of them are white. So the police are killing twice as many whites as blacks. And when you look at the homicide rate of young black men, 8 times the rate of young white men, it clearly shows you how the police are restraining themselves, because those numbers would suggest that the police would be killing more blacks. If a young black is 8 times more likely to be a homicide victim compared to a young white, and the police are, quote, only, close quote, 2.5 times more likely to kill a black person than a white person, it shows you how the police are restraining themselves, which is consistent with the study that was done by the black Harvard economist I told you about named Roland Fryer. He found that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect, tracking the findings that have been done by professors at Washington State for decades. You're getting people killed. Officers pulling back. Bad guys know it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote, and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom.
Morning glory, America. It's election day. It is the glory of our republic. Get out and vote. In North Carolina, that means driving down from the holler or getting out in the middle of the city, going and vote for Thom Tillis whenever the senator joins me. I like to remind people, Thom was the son of a boat draftsman, and he moved a dozen times, 20 times actually in his life, but he never went to the same school in consecutive years. I'm always amazed by that, Senator Tillis, always amazed by that. And now you're in the United States Senate, and I'm sure you're running through the tape.
Yeah, Hugh, we are. We're working hard. We've had 2 great rallies with the president since Sunday, or I should say Sunday or Friday night. Gosh, I can't even keep track anymore. But we were in Hickory. We were in Fayetteville. There's a lot of intensity out there. I've eaten about 30 pounds of barbecue over the last 7 days and talked to a lot of people, and I think we're going to see good turnout at the polls today. We saw historic turnout in early voting. And, back to what you said, I told a lot of people, if you want to know how I've direct myself, what my priority is, I'm looking for the people who grew up like I did and make sure they have the same extraordinary chance that I did.
Yeah, opportunity society is everything. Senator Tillis, I want to ask the tough question first. And if you got kids in the car, you may not want to have you listen to this. Your opponent cheated on his spouse during this campaign at least once. And we know that. And maybe twice and maybe 3 times. He won't answer questions. Does that matter to the people of North Carolina?
I believe it does. I think that we've seen a kind of a seismic shift in trusting him. You have to keep in mind, he's an Army lieutenant colonel who ran millions of dollars in ads saying that the truth matters and honor matters. He's been untruthful and dishonorable. And I think that has struck a chord with a number of people in North Carolina. 10 years ago, it probably would have ended a campaign. Now it just affects a certain amount of the demographic. But, we're a military state. We're a state with almost 1 million veterans. And you have an adulterous affair with a wounded warrior's wife, and that matters to the veterans population. It matters to military families. It certainly matters to the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy that's represented here in this state.
No, I'm a military family, but I'm a civilian, and I sure would. I would be so outraged if someone broke my daughter's wedding apart. I mean, I cannot tell you that. She's married to a service member. I cannot tell you how angry I would be. I assume you've run into that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of work with wounded warriors and a lot of the guys from the 82nd Airborne who came back with the wounds of war. And in that community, when you're a field grade officer, and he was a JAG officer. He said that he deployed with Special Forces in one of his ads, but he's not a special operator. He was a JAG officer who understands the code of conduct, understands the laws governing the military, and he broke them at least once, probably twice, and who knows how many more times. He dishonored his family, his teenage kids, and that alone should disqualify him for being in office.
Now, Senator Tillis, let's talk about the reason to vote for you. There are lots of reasons to vote against Cal Cunningham. I mean, I just couldn't vote for him. I bet you a lot of Democrats are just staying home, even if they can't bring themselves to pull the lever for you. But you're out there with the president. How were those rallies? What were they applauding? What do they see in the guy? What do they see in you? I know the Supreme Court votes you cast. I watched you during the Amy Coney Barrett hearing. You protected her. You gave her a chance to answer questions when she got rudely interrupted by Senator Hirono. You were there to protect her. What is motivating these people? Because these crowds are extraordinary.
Well, I was in Hickory. We had almost 30,000 people there. Excuse me. And I asked them, I said, raise your hand if you can think of one promise this president hasn't kept in his first 4 years in office. 30,000 people. I said, as a matter of fact, he not only cut taxes, cut regulations, put forth over 200 conservative judges, including Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. He's done things he didn't even have on his list. Think about moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Think about taking out ISIS leaders. Think about taking out the most notorious terrorists in Soleimani. Think about how he has taken China to task. I mean, my goodness, folks. Yeah, every once in a while he's got some stylistic differences from this North Carolinian, but you cannot question his track record. And the same goes for me. I voted with the president down the line. He's put forth conservative judges. I'm on the Judiciary Committee. I proudly cast my vote in committee. And then on the floor, I voted for tax cuts. I did that back when I was Speaker of the House. In the 4 years that I was Speaker, I did for North Carolina what the president's helped do for this country. And we need those 4 years. We also need to understand that Chuck Schumer would destroy the institution of the Senate. He would do the nuclear option. He would pack the courts. He would pass tax increases. He would codify into law things like Waters of the U.S. and the Green New Deal, and it would destroy this country.
I got to say, Senator, tonight, I don't think we'll call any states or races until 3 a.m. I'm doing Salem Media from 6 to midnight. How long can people vote in North Carolina, too, by the way, Senator?
The polls will be open, I believe, until 8 o'clock. And there's a lot of people out there now, and we're trying to encourage everybody to get out, vote early, get out early, and then get on the phone and call your friends and neighbors and tell them that the future of the country is at stake, and we need everybody out to vote.
Now, in my places where I voted, if people ever dispute your right to vote, you file a provisional. I hope your people know that if they say you're in the wrong place, file a provisional. I just don't trust some of these Democrats. I just don't.
No, I think you're absolutely right. We've got a lot of additional polling locations, so it is very important for if you end up going to a polling location, it's not your primary one, make sure that it's a provisional ballot. I believe in Mecklenburg County and across the state, those votes will be counted. But it is very important, if you can, to make sure that you go to your official precinct or your polling location.
Now, in terms of turnout, Senator, are you heading into the day tied, behind, or ahead? With everyone that we've already voted, do you have those numbers?
We look like, well, first off, we've had historic Republican turnout, but the election is going to be decided today. I think going into it, it is a dead heat. And turnout today is going to determine the result of the election for the president and for my race here in North Carolina. But I feel confident, Hugh. It's always close in North Carolina, but I feel confident that at the end of the day, we win.
And I also believe that if I see Thom Tillis called, and it will be one of the earliest states called, I know the Republicans will hold the Senate. And if they hold the Senate, it will be everything for this country, either to confirm Donald Trump judges or to hold the line against Joe Biden. We have to hold the Senate.
There's a reason why North Carolina is, again, the most expensive race and Senate race in U.S. history, because we know if we do our part to save the Senate, then we'll win the day. That's why it's so important for people in North Carolina to get out and vote. It's a beautiful day here across the state. There's not a cloud in the sky. Put a jacket on, get out and vote, call your friends, get them out to vote.
Senator Tillis, great to talk to you. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you as still Senator Tillis after today. Thank you for joining me so often during this campaign.
Thank you, Hugh. God bless.
I got to tell everybody, no matter where you are, what the senator just said, this is the best election day weather I have ever seen, providential. It is the best I have ever seen. Normally, there's one part of the country that's getting hammered. Go look at a weather map. God wants you to vote. It really does. There is no, you might have to stand in line, but as Senator Tillis just said, get a jacket. Take your mask. Stand in line and, say your beads if you're a Catholic. Pray for the country. If you're an evangelical, just pray for the country without the beads. But whatever you are, Jewish, Muslim, whatever you are, go out there and pray for the country and stand in line. Strike up a nice conversation. Even if you're talking to a Democrat or an independent or a hard left socialist, be nice. Just be nice. I do not believe this country is represented by the boarded up cities. I do not believe that is the case. 1-800-520-1234. First-time voters, welcome. 1-800-520-1234. Let me check the markets on behalf of Andrew and Todd.com. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian, they will help you buy a house. And boy, interest rates have never been this great. Yesterday, the market signaled to me that it wants Donald Trump to win, and I think it might be. It's up 42. Oh, well, now let me look at that. Those are the futures. I don't do futures. I don't look at the stock where it is today. I look at what's going on yesterday, and everything was green. And overseas today, it is remarkable. Every overseas market. I don't do American markets during the day because they can turn around. But every overseas market is up close to 2 or over 2%. England up 2%. I believe that's because they believe Donald Trump is going to win re-election. I believe that. Let me also tell you about ReliefFactor.com. I normally do it at the bottom of the hour. I'm doing it early today because I want you, if you're going to stand in line for all these hours, make sure you get your Relief Factor before you go, and do not grow tired. Do not grow weary. Don't let the minor aches and pains get you to go home. Could be a one-vote election in some states. Really, a one-vote election. So you got to go and stay the course and find the right precinct. Go and vote. Take your Relief Factor before you go, but go and vote. And then get a starter pack for Relief Factor, $19.95, by going to ReliefFactor.com. Come right back here to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Michael Moore is essentially saying the same thing. Yesterday, he was interviewed on a show called Rising on Hill TV. Here's what he said just yesterday.
Trump has tightened virtually every one of these swing states. Listen,
don't believe these polls. The Trump vote is always being undercounted. Pollsters, when they actually call a real Trump voter, the Trump voter is very suspicious of the deep state calling them and asking them who they're voting for. Whatever they're saying the Biden lead is, cut it in half right now in your head. Cut it in half, and now you're within the 4-point margin of error. That's how close this is. That's how desperately close this is.
That was yesterday. That's Michael Moore this time around. And you know, when I listened to that speech from 2016 about the despair that people have to encounter with a message of doom and negativity. Here was Biden yesterday in Tampa while Trump had a rally with the First Lady in front of thousands of people outside Raymond James Stadium. Biden had a handful of cars at the state fair, I guess the Tampa, I don't know, the state fairgrounds. He keeps talking about the dark winter. Biden it was so depressing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate. Since the presidency of Nixon, that is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause is designed to ensure that your fiduciary responsibility, your integrity, your allegiance is to your office, to your country, to have America first, as President Trump says, and to make sure that your allegiance is not compromised to a foreign government. And that is exactly what the evidence is showing that Joe Biden has done throughout his time as the Vice President of the United States.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public
That's Guards with Silver Lining. That's the Big Ten music. It makes me think of Justin Fields, quarterback extraordinaire. Ernie in Columbus, you're on. Are you voting, Ernie, or have you already voted?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Terrific. Go Bucks.
Go by school rounds. I got my COSAR and site posters down in my basement. You'd be proud of me, Hugh.
Yes, yes.
I voted. I went in at 5:45. I'm a truck driver. I need to be at work at 7. I told my boss might be a little bit late. I went in at 5:45 and got in there at 6:30. Got out at 6:45. When I came out, there's probably 200 people in line.
Do you think it's a Trump crowd?
What's that?
Do you think it's a Trump crowd?
I think the majority is, because I think they're waiting, till the last day. That's the only way we know that this is genuine and honest.
That is, by the way, what is expected. There is expected to be a massive Trump advantage on election day. So good on you. Go enjoy the day. Come back and join me midnight, 6 to midnight tonight. Bobby in Erie, Pennsylvania, home of Camp Notre Dame. Hi, Bobby.
Hi, Hugh.
Welcome.
I've already voted for Trump. I'm a mental health therapist, and the reason I voted for him is because the child trafficking is way down. I've seen some drug dealers, and they told me they hated Trump because he has stopped the cartel from coming in, and now what they used to pay $60 for, they have to pay $300 for. They're not making the money, and they hate Trump for that reason. I see little kids that their teachers are teaching them to hate America, and it's just degrading. It's awful. And Biden's whole campaign was based on negative, fear-based, and absolutely no positive. And I still can't understand why anybody who hates America like Biden and Harris do, why do they want to run our country?
Bobby, well, I'm glad you are voting. I'm glad you've done it, and I'm glad Erie, Pennsylvania is represented. Thank you. Denise in Columbus, Ohio. Denise, have you voted yet?
I sure did. Got there a half hour early. Didn't have to wait too long. And the best part of it, too, is Mr. Satsko here in Columbus, Ohio, who owns a large construction company. By the time I got out, his big box truck with a big Trump sign and Trump posters in the ground was lining right beside the church where I voted. So it was really cool.
You feel pretty good about Trump today?
I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
Well, it's good to be nervous.
Hey, Hugh, I live with there's 6 of us, and I'm the only conservative.
Well, you can go home and make them a great breakfast, and maybe they'll stay there and miss their voting. I'm kidding, of course.
I am going home to make a good breakfast because that's what I do as a good conservative Trump believer.
Denise, thank you. Bill in Santa Cruz, California. Who you voting for, Bill?
Trump.
And why? You're in California.
Well, Obama got me living in my car, and I'm hoping Trump will get me back out of my car.
Well, God bless you. I hope so, too. Thank you, Bill. I'm going to do one more from Pennsylvania. Hugh is calling Hugh. That's why I had to get you in, Hugh.
First-time Republican voter. Voted for Trump. Took my ballot down to Allegheny County about 4 weeks ago.
And why did you do that? Vote for Trump.
I watched Dinesh D'Souza's movie, Hillary's America, and it changed my life, to be quite honest with you. I blindly voted Democrat my whole life, and I was disgusted when I walked out of the movie theater after I saw that movie. I thought I'd been lied to my entire life, and I just read a book called Infiltration by Dr. Taylor Marshall, which is extraordinary. I feel like I've been lied to by the Catholic Church as well.
Hugh, did you get a lot of people to vote with you?
Yes, I did. I converted my older brothers, who both were lifelong Democrats as well. Just met with them. I think they were sick and tired of seeing all the Black Lives Matter stuff, rioting.
Hugh, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. Don't go anywhere, America. I will be right back with Senator Joni Ernst as we continue on election morning on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Charlie KIRK Show. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
as a GDP growth figure nudged 3%. I can remember those days. It seems
How do you like 33.1%? Wow.
Okay, let's just stop.
Growth. It's the best we've ever had.
33.1%. It's 7% quarter on quarter, 33.1% annualized. You are the person we come to for trusted information about our economy, about the markets. Did you expect that kind of figure coming out of COVID?
Not as quite as good as that. I mean, I did believe that we could see a V-shaped recovery, but I did not, to be perfectly fair. I mean, I know that the Atlanta Fed had predicted 33%. I thought, gosh, I hope so. But I still worry that there are parts of our economy that are still shut down in massive ways, right? The travel industry, the entertainment industry, sporting, all of that kind of thing. So all the more reason, Seb, for us to be completely blown away and super excited by this. It tells you we are back in a growth trajectory. Now, the previous quarter, we were down more than 9%. It was like the worst we had ever seen, right? Obviously, I mean, we shut ourselves down. We closed down the entire country. People weren't leaving their houses. So there was this sense of hysteria that just gripped America and really left us just the most, frankly, the weakest place we've really ever been since the Great Depression.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Before, if 25 unarmed black men are killed every year, that's 2 per month. Again, this wasn't unarmed, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So we can do this until the cows come home. Meanwhile, more unarmed whites are killed every year than unarmed blacks. Name one. What's the chant they say in the streets? Say her name, say her name. Okay, say their name. Say their name. Name one. 50 million police-civilian interactions every single year. 11 million arrests. 60,000 officers assaulted. 60 killed. Which means over twice as many police officers are killed every year than are unarmed blacks. Say their names. Out of the 1,000, 500 of them are white. So the police are killing twice as many whites as blacks. And when you look at the homicide rate of young black men, 8 times the rate of young white men, it clearly shows you how the police are restraining themselves, because those numbers would suggest that the police would be killing more blacks. If a young black is 8 times more likely to be a homicide victim compared to a young white, and the police are, quote, only, close quote, 2.5 times more likely to kill a black person than a white person, it shows you how the police are restraining themselves, which is consistent with the study that was done by the black Harvard economist I told you about named Roland Fryer. He found that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect, tracking the findings that have been done by professors at Washington State for decades. You're getting people killed. Officers pulling back. Bad guys know it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once says an old joke. How do you
33 minutes after the hour, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I want my friends in Iowa who are listening to tune in very closely. Joni Ernst, your senator, joins me. Good morning, Senator Ernst. How are you?
I am great, Hugh. Thank you. I've got a little bit of a scratchy voice this morning, but it's all good. Election day is here.
You know, the first time I met Senator Ernst, I was at National Airport. She was coming back from dropping her daughter off at West Point. Is she commissioned officer now, Senator?
She has another year and a half, and then she will be a second lieutenant in our great United States Army.
It must be, you must be so full of pride. To be a senator is one thing, but to be the parent of an officer who's dedicating their life, that's really special.
Yes, she is such a joy and such a blessing. We've been texting all morning already. She's just really excited about Election Day, and all of her friends are shooting me texts as well. So it's going to be a great day, Hugh.
Now, Senator, you have come from behind to be ahead, and I don't want anyone to rest on that laurel, but I want to note it. I always report the news. They can have same-day voting in Iowa. You can just walk in, register, and vote. If they want to get on the Joni Ernst train, they can do it today. I'm heard all across northern Iowa. I mean, you want to win by 10. You need every vote.
Yes, absolutely. We have to turn out the vote. We cannot take anything for granted. We were doing rallies this entire past week out on the road. Last night, final rally in Sioux City. The president happened to call me before I went on stage, and he was able to go on speakerphone, speak to the crowd. People are energized, but that has to translate into votes. So we have to keep turning out the votes today, make sure people get to the polls.
Is your team large enough to get in touch with everyone who hadn't yet voted, and they have to do the midday checkup to see who's still out there? Maybe they got distracted in the morning. It really could be. You know, I think you're okay, but I don't want to leave it to chance. It could be a one-vote race. Everyone's got to act like that.
Yes, absolutely. And we have folks that have been making phone calls for weeks now, but today is that final day. I talked to some of the volunteers just a couple days ago. They were ready and raring to go on Election Day. So they will be manning the phones today just to remind everybody to get out and vote.
Now, you've been buried in Act Blue money for a very left-wing, and I mean way left-wing, farther to the left than all of the Democrats who've ever represented Iowa. And she is not so stealthy anymore. I think she came out and went full Green New Deal against Iowa. What's the average reason you got the middle, Senator Ernst?
Well, I think they are just so scared at what the left is doing. You know, Iowa folks that are in the middle, they tend to be a little more center-right, but they're independent thinkers. But what they see coming down from the left is just pushing further and further to the left. Just the other day, my opponent was basically endorsed by AOC, and AOC was out there saying we've got to get rid of Republicans like Joni Ernst because we don't want bipartisanship anymore. And it's crazy how far they are pushing. And Iowans don't like that. They don't like money coming in from San Francisco and New York City. So I think they're going to vote that direction. They're going to vote the direction of common sense and being more towards the center, and that's what we'll see today.
Now, Senator Ernst, I followed your race very closely, and you were behind for a while, then you caught up, and we're neck and neck, and now you're ahead. I put a lot of that down to how you talked with now Justice Amy Coney Barrett, especially your intervention to protect her from attacks. Do people mention that to you? Did they see how you performed on the Judiciary Committee in making sure she had a chance to state her piece?
They do. I hear it all the time as I've been crisscrossing Iowa, every corner of the state, looking my constituents in the eye. They always tell me, thank you so much for allowing her to speak when the Democrats were talking over her, interrupting her, not giving her opportunity to answer. They do bring that up. I'm very thankful. And I was grateful to be on the Judiciary Committee to have that opportunity to vote to make sure that Judge Amy Coney Barrett became Justice Amy Coney Barrett.
Now, I don't want you to ruin your voice early in the morning, but I want to ask you one more thing. In the last debate, former Vice President Biden said he would transition away from the oil industry, yes. And I thought, that's not going to play well in Iowa because Iowa does ethanol, right? And that is a mixture in the gasoline business. Do any Iowans know that was a shot at them as well as at Pennsylvania?
So we remind him every opportunity we can. As Joe Biden's out there promoting electric vehicles and saying this is what we have to do, we have to recognize that puts a big old target on our renewable fuels industry. This is the most anti-ethanol, anti-renewable fuels ticket with Biden and Harris that we have seen since the RFS went into place. So here we have a president who's now an official member of the Corn Growers Association. He's doubled down on his support for renewable fuels. We've got to make it happen. We have to work together to make sure that there is opportunity and choice at the pump, not being forced into, some sort of mandated vehicle. So, we've got a long ways to go, but my hope is we don't see a President Biden, that we see a President Trump, who is willing to work with consumers. Let's drive on, folks. Let's make sure we're getting out to the polls and voting.
Very last question, Senator Ernst. I don't know the Iowa rules. If someone shows up and they can't vote, can they file a provisional?
They can. They can go ahead and do same-day voter registration in Iowa. They have to provide, obviously, proof of who they are, what their address is, or they have to have a person from within that precinct vouch for them personally, and that person can only vouch for one person. So, and then if it's a vouch, then it can be a provisional ballot. But if they're providing the proper documentation, they can go ahead and vote a regular ballot.
So we need everyone who's registered to get out and vote. And if you're just deciding, I got to go support Senator Ernst, take someone with you from the precinct or bring along a lot of ID and make sure you get your provisional filed. Senator Ernst, great to talk to you. Good luck. I know the tide is behind you and the wind's at your back.
You bet. And if folks want to help me fight the liberal elitists, go to JoniErnst.com and help me push back. JoniErnst.com. It's spelled with an I for the Steelers fans. JONI Ernst.com. Thank you, Senator. I think she is amazing. My voice is like her voice. I'm not going to talk for the rest of the day because I got to do 6 p.m. to midnight on Salem Radio. And I've been talking a lot, been doing every bit of media I can because I think it is so vital that every single senator win. Susan Collins in Maine. Most influential, most liked senator in the United States Senate, going to be chairman of appropriations. If you're listening to me in Portland, you have same-day registration. Michigan, John James. If you elect John James, I believe that man will be president within 16 years. West Point graduate, Apache helicopter combat veteran, successful businessman, child of Detroit, bleeds maize and blue, sadly. But nevertheless, John James, great candidate. You can vote today. If you're not registered, get out there and vote there. In Michigan, anywhere in Michigan, and I'm all over the state. You can go vote for Thom Tillis today in North Carolina. He's already been on the show. Georgia, we need every Georgian, every single Georgian. Democrats are trying to pretend that is a light blue state. It is not. It is red. You got to get out there and vote. You got to go and please don't take it for granted. It could be a one-vote race to make it a runoff in the special or to put David Perdue over the top. I'd rather David Perdue got elected today. I think the other one will definitely be a special, whether or not you're a Kelly Loeffler or a Doug Collins voter. Get out there and vote. In Arizona, you're just waking up. You're just waking up in Arizona. It's 5:42 in Arizona. You have got to go and vote for Martha McSally. First female combat fighter pilot, 300 hours in the air, providing ground support for American troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. Saving lives, fighting on the front line. She is a terrific campaigner, a terrific candidate. The president got huge crowds in Bullhead City. That's because
All of Arizona is turning out like they have never done before, and they're doing it for Joni Ernst. I don't want to forget Cory Gardner in Colorado, uphill race, but he's doing it. He's out there. He's working. Do not give up in Colorado. Get out there and vote in Colorado. I want to make sure in Montana, I got one station in Montana, not a big radio station, but Steve Daines has put it away, it looks like. Montana's like their weapons, and they know that Steve Bullock is going to take them away from you. The governor turned all left wing when he made his quixotic run for president. Get out there and protect your Second Amendment rights, your right to enjoy the outdoors, Montana. Go elect Steve Daines. He's a great Republican senator. And now to Congress. I'm going to have Mike Garcia in the next segment, but there are a lot like Sean Parnell in Pittsburgh and supervisor in Orange County, my supervisor, Michelle Steele. You got to get out and vote for her in Orange County. I used to live in Orange County. I would have voted for Michelle Steele today. She's going to make a great congressman. I think they're going to take that seat back with Michelle Steele, supervisor of Orange County. Great record. I think she's going to be a great congressman. There are races like that all over the country. So even if you haven't got a Senate race, and I've been talking a lot about the Senate races, about David Perdue in Georgia and Thom Tillis in North Carolina and Susan Collins in Maine, Joni Ernst in Minnesota, Cory Gardner in Colorado, Martha McSally in Arizona, Steve Daines in Montana. I think Dr. Marshall's going to win handily in Kansas. They tried to pretend that was a close race. He's going to win with this turnout. This turnout is fantastic. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Makes you really realize Americans follow and love their freedom, and they want to take advantage of the franchise, and they are voting. Vote to keep this Republican Senate under the control and guidance of Mitch McConnell. The only thing the leader does is control the calendar. That's it. They can't make anyone vote one way or the other. All they do is decide what to bring to the floor. And Leader McConnell is the best leader out there. And to my friends in South Carolina and Texas, they tried to take out Lindsey Graham in South Carolina with $150 million. They came after John Cornyn in Texas with the same amount of money. Get out there and vote for Lindsey Graham and for John Cornyn. By 10%, they should both win. And they're both ahead, and they're both going to win. But I just want to be able to say tomorrow, all that wasted money, Democrats, when will you learn? They just lie to you. Your campaign team, Chuck Schumer, they just lie to you. They say they're competitive in South Carolina, and they never are. Lindsey, the hardest working senator for the people of South Carolina, and John Cornyn, I like to point out he's on Senate Judiciary, the only state Supreme Court member who's now a United States Senator. John Cornyn, one of the smartest United States Senators, one of the most responsible. Get out there and vote for those people everywhere. I would like to see the Senate majority go from 53 to 47 to 55-45. That's what happens when every incumbent wins, and you pick up John James, and you pick up Alabama and Tommy Tuberville. But it could even be 56. If Jason Miller, that Iron Range is voting, it could be all the way. So I'm telling you, get going. Now I'm going to take one last time to tell you about ReliefFactor.com, because you might have to stand in line a long time today on Election Day. And if that's the case, you want ReliefFactor.com. $19.95 gets you the starter pack. Do not be sore when you don't have to be sore. It's support for the minor aches and pains of ordinary living. And they are also the producers of Honor Bound Coffee. Now, the reason you want to order Honor Bound Coffee is 100% of the profits from Honor Bound Coffee go to support military families in the United States. And people like Mike Garcia, who's coming up from California 25, they got spouses. They were deployed for a long time, and those spouses sometimes need extra help. And Honor Bound Coffee takes every dollar of profit. 4 different grinds, 4 different blends, 16 different choices. Get a subscription. Get your coffee from HonorBoundCoffee.com and support the troops everywhere in the United States. Support the troops by electing Republicans today. Do not cut the defense budget. Keep America strong. Send back a Republican Senate. Send back Donald Trump. And stay tuned. Mike Garcia is next in my final segment of this morning. Remember, I'll be back from 6 to midnight on all these stations on today's Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Before, if 25 unarmed black men are killed every year, that's 2 per month. Again, this wasn't unarmed, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So we can do this until the cows come home. Meanwhile, more unarmed whites are killed every year than unarmed blacks. Name one. What chant they say in the streets? Say her name, say her name. Okay, say their name. Say their name. Name one. 50 million police-civilian interactions every single year. 11 million arrests. 60,000 officers assaulted. 60 killed. Which means over twice as many police officers are killed every year than are unarmed blacks. Say their names. Out of the 1,000, 500 of them are white. So the police are killing twice as many whites as blacks. And when you look at the homicide rate of young black men, 8 times the rate of young white men, it clearly shows you how the police are restraining themselves, because those numbers would suggest that the police would be killing more blacks. If a young black is 8 times more likely to be a homicide victim compared to a young white, and the police are, quote, only, close quote, 2.5 times more likely to kill a black person than a white person, it shows you how the police are restraining themselves, which is consistent with the study that was done by the black Harvard economist I told you about named Roland Fryer. He found that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect, tracking the findings that have been done by professors at Washington State for decades. You're getting people killed. Officers pulling back. Bad guys know it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for Townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interests, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom.
Welcome back, America, to Hewitt on Election Day. It's flown by this morning, and I am finishing my show today with Congressman Mike Garcia, because he's a former F-18 pilot. He's retired now, but he knows how to run through the tape. Good morning, Congressman Garcia from California. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Hugh. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You've got one of those long days ahead. I'm sure you're going to go polling place to polling place. How's it feel in California? And tell people who you represent and where they can go and vote.
Yeah, it's been a long, call it 20 months. This has been a marathon, my 4th of 4 elections in just 8 months. So we're ready for today. The energy is high. We have polling centers, obviously, throughout the district here, and we're starting to see this major uptick in good conservative values going out and voting, and independents, frankly, who just want to continue to survive in California. So we're excited. We've got a great day ahead of us, and looking forward to the big win.
You know, the numbers across the country are extraordinary, Congressman. People are turning out. We had 120 million votes roughly 4 years ago. It looks like 160 million this year. Are you seeing that in California 25?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in our district we're already at about 245,000 people who have voted out of just over 400,000. So it's going to be record turnout. I think people are waking up. They've got to pay attention to these elections and more importantly, pay attention to who they're voting for. And they're voting their values and not necessarily down party lines, which in a district like mine where I only have 31% registered as Republicans, that's huge. People are seeing the performance. They're seeing representation with pride and excellence without arrogance here in the district, and they're flocking to it, and I'm humbled by it.
Congressman Garcia, do they know what happens in the military, and do they care if the Democrats get the presidency and the Senate? Because I saw Chris Smith, the ranking Democrat on armed services, say, of course there will be cuts to the military. And I think about the training money you did not have when President Obama was president. I think about the cuts to deployment. It's just as terrible for the military to elect Democrats.
Oh, it's absolutely, it's backbreaking right now, especially on the heels of the Obama administration with the Budget Control Act and sequestration. President Trump has done a nice job of reconstituting, recapitalizing, investing in our troops, bringing our troops home, frankly, and getting us out of wars sooner rather than later. So we need to be doubling down in our investments in our military right now, not pulling the funds. And it will happen if we elect Democrats, if the Dems not only control the House but also the Senate and win the presidency. This is a dark day. At the end of the day, if we have a Biden, Schumer, Pelosi world for the military, indeed.
Now, Congressman Garcia, you beat the same opponent in the special. They didn't stop giving her money. I mean, they just flooded you with money. Have you been able to match and fight back? And what's your website?
You know what? Actually, we have. We've been matching almost dollar for dollar. I was the third highest donor or fundraiser in the nation. As someone who's only been in office for 5 months, that's extraordinary. I'm grateful for our nearly 50,000 donors. It's not my opponent who's raising money. It's Pelosi who just keeps dumping money. She's spent about $6 million here in the last 5 weeks, and she's taken this very personally. She doesn't want me in this seat, obviously. And we're fighting the fight. So if anyone can help at this point, we still are raising money. We've got to pay the bills. My website is electmikegarcia.com, and every dollar counts.
How do they campaign against a combat veteran F-18 pilot? I just don't know how they do it, Congressman Garcia.
Well, they're not doing it very well, which is fortunate for us, and they're grasping for straws in a state where straws are illegal, calling me a chicken because of my voting record in office here for 5 months. Basically trying to shame me because I'm a successful businessman, and that's really what's wrong with California. You shouldn't be shamed for being successful.
Calling you a chicken after you land an F-18 on a bobbing piece of real estate in the middle of a stormy sea?
The irony is thick. Yes, it's a flightless bird, and so it's not resonating. It's not successful, and you know Pelosi just keeps spending the money. So
okay, last question. What are the cities in the 25th? I want people to know the area that we're talking about specifically.
Yeah, so the 25th is northern LA County, Antelope Valley, Santa Clarita, Porter Ranch, Acton and Agua Dulce, and then parts of Ventura County with Simi Valley. A very large district, very eclectic and purple district.
You've got the Reagan Library, though, right?
We do. We live in the shadows of the Reagan Library, so there's always a bright, shining, beacon of hope on the hill for us here, and we're gonna not only keep this seat, but also start influencing districts around us here in the next couple of years.
So I hope that Jennifer Horn is listening as she takes over from me at KRLA The Answer in LA as we go off the air here today and gets people out from Mike Garcia. We can't count on Brian; he's a lefty, but we can count on Jennifer.
Mike, Brian's a big fan too. We're gonna have to change his name a little bit here. But
what, you got Brian to vote for you? You got Brian to say nice things?
We'll see. That'll be a good question for him later.
I don't know. I want you to go talk to Jennifer. I wouldn't trust Brian. No, I wouldn't do that. He's like, but nevertheless, Congressman Garcia, have a great day. Run through the tape. We'll talk to you this week. Congratulations on a great effort.
Thank you, Hugh. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Harley and Ben. Here's the deal, America. I'm coming back tonight at 6 p.m. on most of these stations, and I'll be here at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. in the West for you people who are a little bit slow. And I will be on for 6 hours in between with Ed Morrissey. I'll be doing NBC Hits. I love Election Day. I love it. But you'll love it more if you're part of the winning side. So get out there and vote for President Trump. Get out there and vote for Susan Collins in Maine. We need to keep the Senate. Martha McSally in Arizona. Thom Tillis in North Carolina. Georgia. They're trying to steal Georgia into the blue column. Don't let them. Your vote matters. One vote election somewhere in the United States. Might be John James in Michigan. Get out there and vote, and I'll talk to you at 6 p.m. East Coast time on the Salem Radio Network Election Night Special.